one of those. Okay. Okay. Right, so I'll cut into it. So, ready?
Yeah, good.
So, guys, welcome back to the Jack Revell Show. Today, I've got my good friend and special guest, Connor Mcdonald, with me today. So, Connor is the owner and founder of Active Vegans and Plant-Based Games. And what we're here to do today is talk about basically being plant-based, fitness and plant-based, and kind of the future of what the world is going to look like if we all go plant-based and if we all start doing a bit more for the planet. Connor, in his own words, is on a mission to inspire others to eat more plants, less meat, and exercise more. He's got strong roots, and that pun is totally intended, in fitness and being obviously a plant-based himself. Connor also believes in plant-based diets are better for the long-term health of not just ourselves, but for our planet. So welcome to the show, Connor.
Thanks for having me on, mate.
No worries. So first of all, I just want to start off by kind of going backwards into the very beginning. You've got a background in sport, obviously, rugby being your main thing. So tell us a bit about kind of your background in the sporting side of things, first of all.
So in terms of sports, I was always active as a young kid, taking part in martial arts or football or rugby, but rugby is the one that kind of really stuck with me throughout. But it wasn't until probably my late teens that I really took it on board and really kind of tried to do something with it, which technically in sport world is quite late, really. So yeah, I started playing rugby properly about 19 in Wales, which was great. It was pretty rough and ready back in those days, playing in the lower tiers of rugby, but it was fun and it was massive community, which I really enjoyed, which I later found in years to come playing higher up that you kind of lose that. But yeah, I started playing rugby properly when I was about 19. Then I got opportunity to go to Australia to play. So I did a season out in Australia, which was awesome. Always great kind of traveling and doing what you love as well. So great to combine those two. And then that's kind of when I've always had quite a serious mindset where if I want to do something, I want to be the best at it.
Yeah.
Not in an ego way, but just because why not? Why not be the best that you can be in anything that you do? So my aim was always to play the highest level possible. So when I came back from Australia, I contacted a couple of clubs in National 1, which is the third tier of rugby in the UK. And then Club Roslyn Park got back to me and I went down to pre-season. And then that's kind of when I really kicked on and started playing semi-professional rugby in the UK. And then unfortunately had a couple of injuries. Shoulder one, which still bothers me today, and it's just but that's the nature of the sport. It's quite tough, but thankfully I was playing at a decent club and they kind of look after you quite well with physio and referrals to doctors and so on, or surgeons even. But yeah, and then as time went on, I stopped playing for a little bit. Then I went to Spain, played a bit of rugby out there, and out there it was actually professional rugby. It was quite weird. I had a friend randomly call me up and say, we need a player in your position. Do you want to come out to Spain? And at the time, you kind of wouldn't really think, well, even now, you wouldn't really think Spain as a big rugby nation, but it was quite a decent level. And it is a professional sport out there. So I went out there, did a season. It was quite surreal because it was quite a big, quite a bit decent club, one of the best clubs in Spain. So I actually had a press conference, which was like, for me, coming from London and, playing semi-professional where you're nobody really, unless you're playing in the Premiership, you're just another rugby player. So there was like news camera there, you're sitting with the president of the rugby club and the coach next to you, and you're in the middle, like trying to act like this is normal, but it's not. And then, you have a press conference and then they come up to you afterwards and, the news are asking you questions about your goals for the season or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of my history in sport. I was getting injured quite a lot. My first game in Spain, I broke my hand, which obviously I had to have an operation on the next day. Then I was out for 2 months. Then I came back, and then in my last game in Spain, I broke my ankle. So with rugby, obviously, you kind of understand that the nature of the sport is quite aggressive, so you are at a high risk of injury. So as I was kind of getting into fitness, started working in fitness a little bit more, and enjoying my training, I came to realize maybe I need to let go of the rugby side of things and allow myself to be able to train effectively, because the injuries were just catching up with me. And then so I dabbled in and out of rugby for the last few years, but I think now it's time to really put it to rest. Even now I'm trying to think, shall I go to preseason? But yeah, so not so much involved in the sport as much, other than the Green Gazelles, the vegan rugby team.
Nice. I like that. So let's talk about Active Vegans first of all, right? Where did it come about? What's it all about? Give us the 411.
Okay, so the Active Vegans, we started as just myself and two friends who are vegan, and work within the fitness industry. We all work together, and there was some fitness competitions created in London, and one of them was created by a brand called Active Man. And then I was like, right, let's just think of a team name. So I was like, Active Vegans. And the idea was to get, we wanted to showcase the rise of vegan or plant-based athletes within the fitness industry. At the time, this is probably about 3 years ago, there wasn't so many, veganism was still growing and as it is today, but there wasn't so many people really saying, I'm vegan and plant-based. So it was all kind of undercover, under a few layers of whatever. So we kind of wanted to just to get that out there and kind of, showcase plant-based athletes. So we got a team together of vegans, and we competed at a couple of events, and that was our kind of way in. And then it kind of snowballed a little bit. We were like, let's continue to showcase, let's try and inspire people. And so then we tried to create a community, or we created a community where it's not just for vegans, but it's just to help people get a better understanding of a plant-based lifestyle, how to fuel better. We created events, we've done talks, and our own fitness competition, which it led into down the year. And and that was the whole idea behind the Active Vegans, is to combine the health and fitness community with the vegan plant-based community and just bring them together, because I think there's so many common passions there. We care about our fitness and being healthy, and a lot of the reason why people do go plant-based or vegan is because they are passionate about looking after their bodies and longevity and so on. So it's kind of like merging them together and saying, neither of them are strangers, and we could come together and really have a positive effect in what we are doing.
It's funny because I've been plant-based now for about 15 months and I've definitely felt the benefits. I think we met not too long after I went plant-based, and I went plant-based for fitness more so than I did for sort of the ethical reasons. And it's interesting how I've always been into training and doing different things, but I've considerably noticed the difference since going plant-based, just on, as you said, longevity. And I think in terms of recovery and fitness, just generally, you measure fitness by how quickly you recover from a certain event or a certain sport. And I saw myself just getting better and better and better, because I think my recovery time was almost being cut in half or even more because I was eating a different diet. The one thing I have got from a lot of people, and I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on this, the big myth around being plant-based. People think you can't be healthy on a plant-based diet because of the whole, like, you got to be a meathead, therefore have protein and like all that sort of stuff. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, I could name, loads of amazing athletes who are plant-based and vegan. And I mean, from the community that we've created or we've kind of brought together, the proof is there in front of you. You don't have to look at science or anything. You can just look at this person straight in front of you. They're healthy, we're fit, we're strong. You got athletes in the CrossFit Games who are finishing in the top 4 with James Newbury. You've got ultra marathon runners. So I think, I think it's just people are just kind of latching onto that. And I think it's obviously a mindset that they're in, that they've been told for years and years that you need to consume animal products to be healthy. So, and that's what our mission is to say, look, you don't need to do that. Just kind of not in an ego way, but like, look at us. But I say, look, we are examples of this. I even did my blood work with that I think I told you about, and it got reviewed by a guy that we work with, Liam from PH Nutrition, and he said it's some of the best blood work he's ever seen. And he's done thousands of blood works with professional footballers. He worked with Tottenham Hotspur and FC Copenhagen. And and other elite athletes, you know. And I mean, if you want the science, there's a science. My blood work is completely normal.
Yeah.
You know, I don't take heaps and heaps of supplements. I take a couple of bits here and there. But yeah, of course, there's going to be this idea that you need to consume animal products because it's just slammed everywhere, you know, milk for bones and meat for muscle and this and that. So that's a reason. I think once you dive in under that, you know, that's just the surface layer. Once you go, okay, if someone really wanted to understand, could I be healthy? They could find out in 5 minutes, and they could go, actually, when you look at this, yeah, you can be healthy. But it depends if there's a motivation to search beneath the kind of initial idea of meat and health. You know, I think people need to search. Once they search, the answers are there.
Yeah.
You know, you can't.
So let's talk about someone who maybe is listening to this and is curious about becoming plant-based, right? I would sort of generalize here, but I would say the first question I think people would get if they didn't know much about being plant-based is, where do I start? You know, people are used to having a bit of meat that they plan their meals around on their plate, or they're maybe used to having that thing that they always buy at the supermarket that keeps them fuller for longer and that sort of thing. So just from someone you know, who eats plant-based and is clearly training on being plant-based, so you're eating a lot more than maybe someone who isn't. What do you start your diet with and your meals with? How do you base your plans on that?
So I always say with anyone who's looking to maybe reduce their consumption of animal products, I say, you know, you want to add in foods first before you take away. Otherwise, you're taking away, you've got this void, and then it's like, what do I fill it with? So that's why, you know, kind of like my saying is, eat more plants and then eat less meat, and then that way you can kind of learn before you're taken away. But it's kind of like a little process, you know. I think we're very lucky now. When I went vegan 6 years ago, or veggie before that, you know, we had probably tofu, Linda McCartney's, and a couple other brands, and that was it. And soy milk. There was no almond, no cashew, no hazelnut, none of this, no coffee, oat milks, nothing.
They've got their own bloody island in the supermarket.
So now I think we're very fortunate. So if anyone wants an alternative, obviously there's meat alternatives, which we call what's the word I use for them? It's just like, obviously, when you take away one, you could just replace it with another product, which is very similar, and you kind of don't get that, feel like you're missing something. So I think, you know, you need to explore food. You need to kind of enjoy or find a new connection with it. You know, I love cooking, so I think I'm very fortunate. But if you don't love cooking, I guess it's a little bit trickier. But that's where the meat alternatives will really come into it. But I would say for anyone who is interested, do a little research. There's heaps of videos out there now. So many videos, so many amazing chefs like Gaz Oakley, who makes amazing tasting food. Plus you've got the Bosch guys, even Fern Cotton's got a book out about healthy vegan and things like that. So I think we're very fortunate, but it's kind of finding what you enjoy eating and then working around that. There's no point me saying, okay, you need to eat 5 different beans and legumes and this and that, because you'll just see it. Most people just see it as, okay, it's like just like vegetables. So it's kind of like, you need to kind of be a bit creative and explore food. You're going to open your palate to so many amazing flavors. I think before I was veg or vegan, I didn't like tomatoes, didn't like avocado, didn't like hummus, and some of the biggest staples and amazing foods that I eat today. So, but it's kind of like, you know, I always start off, I just eat what I enjoy.
Yeah.
And then you'll find over time, you'll find a nice pattern of what you like to eat. And and it is, if you go into the stores, there's so many alternatives, you know.
The reality of, I mean, from someone who's been vegan plant-based for 6 years plus, I've been it for about a year or so. There is that time before you actually get used to it that your body goes through a transition, right? And I remember it quite vividly, where the first kind of like month of doing it, your body's like, what is going on? You know, and you feel bloated, and you feel hungry, and then you feel full, you know, and it's a bit of a weird one. I think anyone listening that wants to try it, I think you have to stick at it for at least 6 weeks to 2 months just to really feel the benefits. But I'd be interested to know what your opinion is on these meat-free alternatives, because I'll be honest, I had a Beyond Burger the other day, right? The ones that, if you didn't know it wasn't meat, you'd think it was. It bleeds like a burger, it smells like a burger, it fries like a burger. And it actually creeped me out.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to not eating that texture of meat that I was a bit like, I'm not sure if I like that or not. Like, do you get the same thing?
Yeah, 100%. I think I had an experience where I was eating a burger that I bought from the store, Linda McCartney, and I think me and my girlfriend at the time, we were eating it and we were like this tastes so real, and it smelled it. You know, when you get like that oniony, meaty smell, and we were like, she couldn't eat the burger in the end and had to throw it away. And I was like, I ate it. I was fine with it, but I was like, this is so strange and so weird. I think this is interesting because when I first went plant-based vegan, it was just bean burgers, and I was like, why can't we make a meat alternative? Why can't there be like a vegan chicken or whatever? And now that they've come in, and I don't eat them often, but when I do, you know, I kind of think I prefer the bean burger now. It's quite a weird transition because of what you said. It's the texture and it's the kind of, you know, it's something that's a bit alien to us now. So yeah, I mean, they're great. The word I was looking for earlier was transition foods. Right. They're good foods to transition from meat to a plant-based diet. And I think, you know, ultimately, if it gets people to consume, if meat alternatives can help people not consume animal products and therefore have a better impact on the environment, then 100%. I think that let's use them as much as possible. But the idea is to follow a whole food plant-based or a whole food vegan diet. Obviously, you could be an unhealthy vegan. You know, you could eat Oreos and whatever else as much as you want, peanut butter.
Lotus biscuits.
Yeah, they're dangerous.
Mate, I didn't know they were vegan until someone told me. I was like, that is just, you shouldn't have told me that.
Biscoff. Yeah, there's a lot of foods out there now, obviously because of the rise of the plant-based movement, then they're kind of making little changes. Boom, it's vegan, you can consume it still. But the idea is to move to a whole food plant-based diet. Why? Because this is where you're going to get the most nutrients from. Yeah. This is where we're going to really promote health. This is where we're going to promote longevity. I think that's the most important thing that we need to think about when we are consuming foods is not the immediate effects, but the long-term effects. Because I think down the line when, you know, our body is more susceptible to illness and disease, this is where our body can best fight it. And I think that's what I try and get across now, because, you know, you could, you know, best or the fittest guy in the world, Matt Fraser, he eats eggs and this and that, but, you know, you can still be fit on a consuming animal products. But let's see what happens down the line. Let's see in 10, 15 years how someone is then, you know. I think that's the most important thing. But yeah,
that's also, I mean, look, there's a lot of myths and a lot of I suppose Chinese whispers going on around the plant-based diet, and one of the ones that's highlighted to me and people I've spoken to is about the B12 stuff, you know, like supplementing B12, and also, you know, are you getting enough proteins in the right format? Now, is it true that being plant-based you can't get a full complex diet?
No, it's not true.
Okay.
That you can't. No, okay. No, 100%. You can. Yeah, there's a lot of misunderstanding, I think, because I just think if you know basic, you know, science and in where protein comes from, and you'll know that you can get it all from plants, you know. On the B12, I guess we got started with the first one, the B12. This is made by bacteria on the ground, and then, you know, if the animal consumes or eats the grass and the bacteria, then it goes into the animal and then straight into, and then you consume the animal. That's where you kind of get most of your B12. But a lot of animals or the animal agriculture, they supplement cattle with B12 or sheep or whatever, because they're not really, a lot of grain-fed animals aren't getting that hit of B12. So your animal's getting supplemented anyway, so you can get it from the animal. So it doesn't make sense. But so I think naturally it's lower in the soil and in the water. That's where we would have got it back, you know, if you go back hundreds of years, that's where we would have got the most of the B12 from.
Is that the argument to say that organic farming is much better because obviously they're you know, letting them graze on natural products rather than on
if it's for the B12, then I guess so. Yeah. But I mean, you could just get the supplement anyway. Yeah. Most people are deficient in B12 regardless if they consume animal products. Yeah, I think it's like 40% of people are deficient in B12. So you know, and if taking a supplement such as B12 is what, you know, something that you might have to do if you're on a plant-based diet, or anyone should do it anyway, even if you consume animal products, then, but the benefits of going plant-based far outweigh the need to go spray once in your mouth and that's it, you know. And I take B12 and I do it probably twice a week, so simple. but the positive effects of me just, not consuming that animal for the B12 is crazy, just, yeah.
It's funny because, as you said, there are so many facts and figures that point towards plant-based diets being absolutely fine, and yet people still have this resistance to wanting to try it. Now, we live in London. London, I think, is actually, I know it's Dublin is actually the capital of vegan in the world. It's quite weird. I wouldn't have thought Dublin would be, but anyway, they are. But London's not far behind in terms of like restaurants and options and just kind of the whole thing. It's in your face. If you go out of London, it's very, to somewhere in the countryside, it's so hard to find even a vegetarian alternative, let alone a vegan. So on that, do you think that it's going to stay just like a kind of hip, cool city type vibe thing, or do you think it's starting to creep out into other areas of the world?
It's definitely going to start creeping out in the Western world for sure. Because I think when you go into other areas of the world where poverty and things are more or a part of their developing world, then I think it's a little bit difficult for them. They're at a stage where they have to just do what they can with what they've got. They don't have the luxuries of consuming or the variety of trying to do a plant-based diet. But I think it's going to definitely bleed out. I remember looking at the Veganuary campaign about 5 years ago, and I think it was about 30,000, 50,000 people did it then. And then I started noticing it was building up. Of course, it's, when you're in a city in London, you feel like you're in your bubble. But, my family in Wales, in that town, there's a lot more vegan options now. A lot more people are open to the idea. I think naturally people, I always say this, when people are given information or told what they can do to make a better, healthier body or a better world, then naturally they'll make the better decision. It's kind of when they're not given that information, when they're not given the alternatives. Of course, we need to make it a little bit easier for them to make transitions and to go, okay, if you couldn't say you need to drink less dairy, but there's no alternative to dairy. You know what I mean? They need, or we need something to kind of help that substitute in. So, okay, let's try this. Why don't you try this? Try this. And I think definitely over time, I believe, and there's are some studies to back this up, by 2030, we're probably looking at most of the menus and most of the food being served will be, vegan or plant-based. And, I think, menus will probably make up 25% will probably be meat. It'll probably be a bit of a rare occasion that you'll do it not because it's like an agenda of, vegans or whatever or animal activists. It's because it's the best thing for the future. Yeah. It's as simple as that. And, and so I think naturally we will need to. It's not going to come to a case, oh, do you want to? It'd be like, well, you can't. You need to consume this. You need to consume that.
If anybody's seen David Attenborough, any of his documentaries, he is probably the person that's advocated this the most for most of his career. He's all about saving the planet. But in recent, I'd say, probably the last 20 years, consumption of meat has gone through the roof because of the population of the world. His recent documentary, I think it was scary that the world has like doubled in size since he was born or something. It's ridiculous. And so, there's more cows, there's more sheep, there's more chickens, there's more mass farming of those things. Therefore, there has to be more land, and therefore they're tearing down, natural resources of forests and stuff to put them in there. So I completely agree with you. I think that there has to be a shift, not just for the ethical reasons of the animals, but also just for the planet itself and being able to save what we actually have left of natural resources and forests, and letting it kind of sustain it for a long, long time. Bringing it back to fitness and the plant-based games, because I think the plant-based games is brilliant. I think it's super cool concept, and it really does kind of bring together what you were saying before, eating more plants, getting people moving more, brings them right together. So where did that come about? Why did you start the plant-based games?
So again, a lot of ideas that I myself and my friends have come up with have just been kind of in the moment, kind of spontaneous, just like idea and then boom and action. So again, I was with my guys who I set up the Active Vegans with, Will and Sammy. We were just like, wouldn't it be great to have a fitness competition that showcases plant-based athletes. And we were like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then we were like, well, why don't we just create it? And then within 10 minutes, I was on GoDaddy. I was like, right, what should we call it? You know, the plant-based games, got the domain name, got the website, and then the next day working on it. And I think from the moment we were in bed when we did that, and we kind of created the plant-based games. And then within, I think it was 2 months, we had our or 3 months, we had our first event. We had over 50 people competing. We had some brands involved. We got the gyms. We got t-shirts. It was a very rough and ready. It was very rustic. It was very like, you know, baseline level. But
you started it.
Yeah, and we did it because it was passionate, and it was like everything we did was just like energy, and it was great. And yeah, the whole idea with that was just, you know, again, you know, we just wanted to promote and showcase the rise of plant-based athletes. It wasn't specifically just for vegan athletes, because it just wouldn't make sense to create an event that was just exclusive to vegan athletes, because we want to, the whole idea is to inspire people to eat more plants and to eat less meat. And it's like, right, let's create, you know, we gave away goodie bags. So in that goodie bags was vegan alternatives, or, you know, natural alternatives. The t-shirts that we had were made from recycled plastic bottles and things like that. So we were like trying to promote the message through getting people together to compete. And, you know, when people are competing, or whether it's in sport or, you know, a fitness competition or on a football pitch, you know, there's always a good energy. And when at the end of the game, everyone's buzzing, everyone's feeling good. So it was like, you know, let's try and create that environment. And it was an amazing energy, and it was a great event. And yeah, and that's how we started the plant-based games. And again, with the mission to inspire people to eat more plants, less meat, and to move more, because, you know, some of the biggest chronic diseases are associated with inactivity. So people who just don't move enough, you know, especially in big cities, you know, quite corporate, everyone's just at desks. Even now, I think it's probably even worse with people at home now, because they're stuck at the desk. They can't really get away.
They're not walking to work and back.
Yeah, they're not walking. They're not getting out. You know, I was talking to my friend last night, and she was on, you know, she, from the moment she gets up to, I think it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock, she was just like banging work, you know, at desk, calls, boom, boom. She's like, I won't say her name because I'm going to tell you what she ate, but she ate like some beans and some rice or something, and that was it. You know, it was like, so she's in inactivity, poor nutrition, you know, it's not ideal for health. But yeah, so inactivity is a big factor that, you know, we're just trying to, I've always had a big passion to help people want to become better than they are today, or were better today than they were yesterday. And my biggest way to do it is through health and fitness, and whether it's, you know, just to kind of inspire them to maybe go out for a walk, or to inspire them to maybe think about what they're consuming, and think, you know, this food is our fuel, and this could add to health, or it could take away. You know, it's down to your choice. But no one can deny a feel-good factor, you know. That can go a long way. And if it feels good, then people are going to want to do it for longer. When they do something and they don't really see the immediate benefits, which sometimes you don't always, then it's harder to keep people kind of going. But it's just about inspiring people to eat more plants, less meat, and creating an environment where they can get together, and totally non-judgmental as well, because that's a big factor. Everyone goes, oh, you like vegan strategy, blah, 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 or whatever. Or anywhere you go, you know, you feels like, but I'm like, no, it's just like, just come in, learn, understand, you know, take on board what you want, and let's try and make a better future.
It's that classic joke, you know, how do you know when someone's vegan?
Yeah,
they'll tell you. But it's true, like, you know, there is a big, I suppose it's quite a proud thing to be, you know, plant-based. I think the same goes for people that sober, people that have, you know, that have been addicted to things, that, you know, come out the other side. I think that until you know, realize that you're not conforming to society's norm, if you like, and doing what everyone else is doing, and you buck the trend a little bit and do something a bit different because you want to, then you start to realize that, you know, that you can just do whatever you want in life and do it for you, not for everyone else. So the plant-based games, explain to me how it works. Like, what is the, you know, you started off, you know, after 3 months of ideas, you got 50 people at your first event. Like, where is it now? What's it currently doing at the moment?
So at the moment, just before lockdown, we were planning our summer event, which was going to be a big outdoor event, which was also going to include some rugby sevens, because, you know, we're always trying to progress, trying to make, how can we make it, you know, bigger and better. So we were going to create an outdoor event in the summer of this year, but unfortunately, due to lockdown and so on, we couldn't go ahead with that. So what we've had to do now is we've created some training days, test and train. So we're just still trying to get the community together, and we're putting on workouts where we test certain elements of fitness, whether it's strength, strongman, endurance, or whatever. But we try and give them some data to walk away with, so they can take it into their programming or take it into the competitions, because there's still some fitness competitions going around.
Yeah. So
it's like, rather than going in there with, aimlessly not knowing what you could lift and how to perform, because you need to be quite on it when you get to these comps. You need to go, right, if I've got a 500 meter row, I need to know what time I'm doing that in, especially if I'm going into barbell thrusters, so I don't gas out. So it's trying to give people as much data or information as possible to take into programming fitness events. So yeah, and obviously due to the restrictions, we're quite limited on numbers. So we've just been doing a couple of those. We've done 2 so far this winter. We've got another one next week, which is going to be awesome. It's going to be at Whip Fitness. That one, we're doing a talk with PH Nutrition.
Cool.
We've done a couple of things with PH Nutrition. Really good group of guys. Really good sports nutritionists and very knowledgeable. So they're doing a talk, and we're going to do a talk on a bit more about the plant-based games. And then we've just we're releasing the plant-based games pledge.
Cool.
Have you seen it? I don't know.
No, what's that?
Cool. So that's quite good. I only put it out yesterday properly.
New and exclusive.
Yeah, exclusive drop.
Plant-based pledge. Here we go.
Yeah. So obviously it's great to do these training days and events, but I was like, we need something that people can take away and then go into and be a part of post our events, because sometimes when you do events and you do talks, as soon as the talk ends or the event ends, so does the energy or the motivation to whatever. Everyone just goes switch off into normal life. It's just how it is. When you watch a video and you're inspired, classic David Attenborough, everyone watches it and goes, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is so sad and blah, blah, blah. And then, David Attenborough might go, a big way that we can reduce our impact is to follow a mainly plant-based diet. And then, but as soon as that documentary ends, and then so does the motivation to do it,
That's
because, I don't know, it doesn't really, it hits them, to a certain level, but it doesn't go deep enough at that very moment. Maybe they need more information and more understanding.
Well, you've hooked them in, but you haven't got the call to action. It's
exactly.
You've inspired them by doing this incredible documentary or this incredible event, but then how do they, if they are someone who wants to learn more, how do they learn more? And I think that's what, you're right, people need that, almost that push to go press this button or click here or whatever it might be.
We need something tangible, something we can just go, right, grab hold of that.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So then I was like, right, a big part of it is environmental for me. We don't have an earth, if our oceans are depleted and our rainforests are gone, we're in a bad situation. Ice caps are melting and so on. But so our single biggest way to reduce our impact on the environment is to avoid meat and dairy. It's just simple. It's come out of an Oxford study in 2018.
Those are the 2 biggest things.
Avoid meat and dairy is the single biggest thing that anyone can do right now to reduce their impact on the earth.
Interesting.
Super simple.
So even if you're someone listening who's like, no, I'm a meat to the end kind of person, but you could potentially be pescatarian, or you could be obviously vegetarian, or you could, I don't know what it's called when you eat everything, but you eat eggs as well. Overtarian. We'll make up some names here. Eggetarian. But okay. So eating, dropping your cow consumption essentially because of obviously dairy, but also is sheep as well, or was it mostly just cows?
Well, obviously cows are obviously made in the mass, due to animal agriculture. They're probably the biggest, pound for pound, they give the biggest reward back for the farmers, for the beef, the dairy and so on. But avoid meat and dairy is the biggest thing, including sheep, cows, lambs, all that. Just chickens also, that's the biggest thing you can do. And I'm not saying, it's not me saying this, going, it's Oxford University is one of the biggest comprehensive studies of over 22,000 other smaller studies of diet and how it impacts our environment. And if you go onto the plant-based games, onto the link tree, there's a link where you can get the study, so it's there. So anyway, so that's so part of the plant-based games pledge was like, we've got the fitness side of things. So I said, so my idea is now to get as many fitness communities, gyms, and studios to try and pledge as many days as possible. So say I'm at CrossFit Shapesmiths, we'll send an email out to them and say that, this is our initiative. We're trying to get as many people to pledge as many days. So you could pledge one day a week. So over the month, that's 4 days. But so you get 100 people doing that from the studio. That's 400 days of total days pledged of going vegan plant-based.
Right. So the pledge is that I pledge I'm going to do a day's worth of being plant-based.
Or as many as you want.
Or as many as you want.
Yeah,
okay.
You could do one day a month. But the idea is then, say, at CrossFit Shapesmiths, 100 people did 4 days out of the month. That's four. And so then as a community, CrossFit Shapesmiths pledged a total of 400 days. So it's kind of given them the power. And then we go, okay, so those 400 days equal to X amount of water saved, grain, CO2, how much forest you saved. So I can, and how many lives you saved. And I think this is incredibly powerful. You go, as a studio, this is what we managed to do. For 1 day of going vegan, you save 1,100 gallons of water, you save 45 pounds of grain, you save 30 square foot of rainforest, 20 pounds of CO2, and 1 life of an animal.
That's a lot.
So yeah, and you imagine, okay,
one person did that for 1 day.
Yeah, 1 day of going vegan, you save all of that. So so then you go, say it was CrossFit Shapesmiths, and they did 400 days, which is it's only 100 people. They've got, I don't know, loads of members or whatever. I don't want to check out numbers of members, but they've got enough members that 100 of them could do 4 days a month. It's such a small effort. I'm not even going to call it a sacrifice. It's just an effort with such a big, huge impact. And then you imagine, 10 gyms in London did that, and you got 4,000 days of the month. When you're talking like 1,100 gallons of water, it's crazy. You can save that just by going 1 day. But I think what might hit more people is, because they might understand, 45 pounds of grain, I don't really know. But, you got to think, well, that's taken up an area that has been, that could go somewhere useful. But the forest, 30 square foot, I don't know how big that is. I can't really put it into...
It's a few big trees.
Yeah, there's enough trees to go, when you look at the Amazon and you look at how much is being ripped down, you could have such a positive impact. If you had, if we went up to 300 square foot, so that's 100 days, then of pledged days, 300 square foot, that's massive.
That's huge.
And then you times that by 4.
Yeah.
For the 400 days, and then imagine you had 10 gyms doing 400 days total. It's 4,000. It's crazy numbers, and this is the pledge now. So what happens is, someone, say you're at a gym and go, and then your gym put out a post, or you got contact, said, we're doing a plant-based pledge. If anyone wants to sign up, click this link. You click the link, it goes to our website. You go, you get some information, blah blah blah, tells you about how many days. Just 1 day can save this. And then you click the pledge. And when you do that, you just fill out your name, your basic details, and the gym you're affiliated with. Because we want to, showcase the gyms and the communities. We want to make it a community thing, because it's like powerful, and we're in it together. As a studio, we say this, and then hopefully the idea we can put some good content together, which kind of shows you in land mass and things like that. But yeah, and then but we also get recipes, you get resources. Where's the best places to eat in London?
Yeah.
Our top tips. You get, we're working with some brands, so we're going to offer, these are our favorite supplement brands. If you want to supplement, this is our favorite meat alternatives, and here's, some discount. But yeah, that's the Plant-Based Games pledge. We're trying to do it from the 2nd of November. We're going to do it for the month of November, basically, from the Monday is the 2nd. And and we're just going to see over the month how many days we can save, as a fitness community within the UK or London. I'm not sure how far it will reach, but the idea is to but you don't have to be part of a fitness community. You could just do it and go, fuck, I'm going to pledge this many days. We could have an unassigned to a gym group and see how many days, because, and I think, I shared some posts, and, so many people have just sent it off and shared and forwarded it to other people. Yeah. So which really surprised me. I was like, wow, because I put up a post that said, if every family in the UK just took meat off 1 meal a week, that's the equivalent of taking 60 million cars off the road. 1 vegan meal a week, not even a day. not even a whole day, just 16, just one vegan meal a week is equivalent to taking 60 million cars off the road. And that really resonated with people who were like, fuck. Because you give them something that they can really understand. You go, 60 million cars, that's a lot of cars.
It's the relatability of it, isn't it? And I love stats. I think a lot of people would relate to that in the sense of knowing kind of like what that equals that. And I think that, the grains and the water and the land mass and all that sort of stuff is obviously important because that's physically what it's actually saving. But when you put it into perspective of cars on the road or, like life longevity given or whatever it might be, that definitely can help people. One question I'm going to ask you, which may be a bit more practical, but let's just take like a week in your diet, right? So I think of classic meals that people eat that maybe are healthy. So we're thinking like, stir fries, curries, like whatever, veg and meat, whatever. What are the things that are easy for people that are probably already cooking that they can literally just take out or substitute or even add in to make it more plant-based than it already is?
So on that last question, obviously the easiest thing they can take away obviously is the meat products and then put in some meat alternatives. Really, I mean, you could probably get 15 different types of sausages, 15 different types of burgers, and they range from Sainsbury's have got Plant Pioneer. They do 8 burgers for £1.79 or 75, which is amazing because before you could go up to the Beyond Burger, which is £5 for 2 patties.
Wow.
So it's quite. But I mean, you got a good range, and the different qualities. But that's probably the most immediate thing. Not dairy alternative milks. Get those in. Dairy yogurts. Things like that is probably the most immediate thing that you can do. Obviously, you're taking out the meat and dairy straight away. There, you can get vegan mince. You can get vegan katsu curry sauce. You can get vegan Kievs, vegan steaks, whatever. You can get that alternative. That's probably the most immediate thing you can do, which is super simple and probably the easiest thing. And you're going to kind of get that satisfaction of you are kind of consuming meat or something, or something that tastes and feels like it. I think that's what people go for, taste and texture.
That's it.
It's not so much the meat product. If you had an identical steak, 2 products, and one was made from 3D printed steak, and it was perfectly exactly the same, people wouldn't care. They go, whatever.
And it comes down to, I remember when I first went, I had lots of curries, because curries are actually, if you break them down, there is mostly vegetables in it. And then you just add in a bit of like meat or whatever at the end, if that's what you want. But if you take that away, it's still the same bloody curry. It's just, or you put something in that's got a meaty texture, aubergine or tofu or whatever it might be. Another one is stir fries. Love a stir fry because it's so easy just to chuck everything in. The other great thing about being plant-based is that you hardly ever get sick because it's almost impossible to get if fruit and veg goes off, it's off. Whereas meat, you kind of do the smell test and all the rest of it. And so, I think from a health benefit and health point of view, and it's cheaper.
Yeah, everyone, that's the big thing. Everyone goes, it's so expensive, or I'm like, it's not.
Have you bought meat in the last 6 months? It's extortionate.
I think if you eat, a whole food plant-based diet, you buy in, decent amount of quantities of foods, and then you can just make quite a good few amount of meals, and it's not cheap. And I don't know the facts and figures, but there is, I think you can save, I think it's £400 or £900 a year on the plant-based diet.
Wow.
On food, from the studies that they've done. They would have done quite a few of those. But in terms of like a week, how I eat is, a lot of people, I don't count calories or anything like that. I don't check how much protein I got. I think there's a big protein myth, like you said earlier. Everyone thinks they need to be getting 1 point. I mean, obviously there are studies saying that if you want to build muscle, you need to do this and whatever. And that's great if you need to build if you need to build that amount of muscle, like if you're a competitive athlete or if you're, doing a specific sport, say for your Ironman, you probably need to be very on it in terms of what you're consuming. Most people aren't doing that. Most people aren't elite athletes. So I think you need to not worry about the protein. Protein is available in every plant, the full range of amino acids.
Peas have protein. I mean, look at any vegan proteins made of peas. And that blew me away when I first learned that. I was like, really? Broccoli has also protein. It's crazy.
Yeah, and there was, they did a study, and it was, if you only got your protein source from nuts, you would still get your all the full range of amino acids that you need for health. I think it was under on leucine by like 10%, that's just assuming you're just getting your protein from nuts and you're not eating anything else like beans, legumes, grains, and so on. So the protein thing is just like, but it's just what people are being fed, because they would go, because it's easy because if you can create confusion, then you can control people a little bit more, So anyone who's a bit like, this vegan, blah, 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 and they've kind of got a reputation within the fitness, they'll go, yeah, but you're not getting the quality protein and full range of amino acids. And then the average Joe won't look beneath that and go, all right, but can I get all the amino acids? You go, yeah, okay, I can get them actually, so that's bullshit.
So where would you suggest someone going to look for the sort of the dummy's guide to starting a plant-based diet? Like, where is the best resource that you could say is like that gives you just like the obvious, this is that, and this is how you eat as a plant-based person?
I think there's quite
I mentioned pH Nutrition.
Yeah, pH Nutrition. They've done quite a few studies. A lot of their guys who work for them are just recently. There's one guy now. He's doing a 30-day study of going plant-based, and he's going to talk about it at our event.
Cool.
pH Nutrition have lots of good resources and information about fitness related. So it's not just about, because if you are within fitness, you do need to be a bit more understanding of what you are consuming, because you are trying to perform at a certain level, even if it's just because you enjoy it, it's fun, but you just need to be a bit more mindful and make sure you can recover fully and so on. But you could go pH Nutrition, even websites like the Plant-Based Health Professionals. They're a group of UK or international doctors who also have nutritionists on board, and they look, if you want the science and you want the data, you go to them, and they have all of the data, and is science-based, so there's no questions asked. It's not someone just giving their opinion. But then you could easily go to like the gamechangers.com. They have recipes and other resources.
I'll link all this stuff in the show notes below, definitely, because I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that people have to jump over is the knowledge. It's all well and good people saying, oh, go plant-based, go vegan, do eat this, eat that. But ultimately, why? Like, why is the question of doing it? And obviously, we've talked about the reasons why you're doing it, because of you're wanting people to eat less meat and more plants to help the planet, but also help your fitness, that sort of stuff. But everybody's got their different reasons.
Yeah, of course.
And I think if you are curious about going plant-based, then that's a great place to start. And I think that being able to go to these resources and just look at it for yourself, I personally know 4 or 5 other people who are doing something similar in the space, whether it be creating a community or creating recipes or creating, like fashion brands or whatever for plant-based products or people. And it all comes back down to just knowledge. And the ones I have spoken to, most of their users are actually the ones that are curious about it rather than the ones that already are plant-based focused. So if anyone's listening that's curious about it, go to these websites, have a look. I'll put them in the show notes below, because it might just tickle that sensor in you that goes, I'm going to give this a go for a bit.
And even if they are interested, you could do the pledge also, and where we're going to give, they will have over 100 recipes. And also it have guides from pH Nutrition on how to fuel yourself on a plant-based diet. So, I guess it is quite scary when people go, but they think they just by taking away meat or animal products, they're losing out on so much. But I find it weird when I say, oh, what do you have for roast dinner then? I'm like, what do you mean? Come on, what is on your plate? Take away the meat. What else you got left? Most of it, right? So it's just that mindset, isn't it? So but we're trying to give people the tools and the understanding of how to do it, And it's not about being vegan. It's just about reducing our consumption of animal products, eating more plants, being healthier, and then I think that's where we can build from.
Cool.
So so no pressure.
What are your 5 staples that you go to the supermarket and every single time you get?
Oats. I love oats. I actually put them in my gratitude journal last night. I
love the oats.
Yeah, literally. I mean, they're amazing carbohydrate, packed full of protein, and great amount of fiber. And there are an unlimited amount of combinations that you can do with them. So oats, amazing. Some dark green leafy veggies, some legumes or chickpeas or lentils, something like that. That's 3. Fruit. So I'm doing a lot of smoothies at the moment, and but in these smoothies you have like maca powder and baobab and all this amazing good stuff. So dark green leafy veggies, legumes, oats, fruit. Usually get like blueberries. That's probably my biggest one, just because they got a bit more fiber, release slower in terms of glycogen or glucose in the blood. And then what's my last one? Oh, oat milk probably.
Yeah,
that's probably it.
I was gonna say I share a couple of those with you. Bananas are my number one. I always buy bananas because you can never have enough of them. Like, and it's great.
You can freeze those bad boys,
and you can make amazing ice cream with them as well. You literally take a frozen banana and put some oat milk in a blender and just blitz it, and it becomes ice cream.
It's so good.
It's the simplest.
And if you want a bit of chocolate, just tiny bit of cacao.
Yeah,
it's chocolate ice cream.
That's it.
And it's so good for you. It's mad.
People don't get it.
Much better for you, isn't it?
My girlfriend got me a really good recipe for vegan brownies made with black beans.
Did you make them first?
Yeah,
that
time we did it. Yeah. So those were super good because you just don't think black beans in a brownie, but I mean, you type that into Google and you'll find many recipes. But I mean, she's the best, and hers are great. But I'm also a big fan of oats, big fan of oat milk, and also I'm a big fan of sweet potatoes.
Oh, yeah,
sweet potatoes, man. They're just like every single time I go there, because you can put them in anything and everything.
They're a good texture, like you're saying for curries. You put some mashed sweet potato in there. You could do like a jacket potato, or you can make wedges to give yourself a little bit of something.
That's it. And anything coconut based as well. I'm a sucker for like coconut yogurt or coconut milk or anything. It's good. It's good. Going forward from this point onwards, we mentioned plant-based games, active vegans, the plant-based pledge. Where do you see the plant-based games going in the next, 6 months to a year?
Well, obviously it's very dependent on the current situation and things like that, but it's always evolving. We as long as we stick within the values and the core beliefs of the plant-based games and our mission to inspire people, as long as we follow that, I think we'll always do the right thing. Ideally, where I'd like to see it is by next year, we definitely want to have an event. We've kind of been working in the background to put stuff together, looking at venues and so on. But of course, that with that comes quite a lot of costs and things like that. And at this time, in this current climate, it's to get that sponsorship at the moment, it's been quite difficult. But the idea is, by the summer next year, is to have the plant-based games competition back up and running in its full steam. We probably keep it to the same as what we did last summer, call it London Utopia, where we have 3 different elements. So we have the plant-based games fitness competition. We have like a vendor village where we showcase, the best vegan foods and products and things like that. And then we have the inspiration space, which is where we do talks and try and inspiring Q&As or whatever to really spread the message. And it's not a vegan event, and that's one thing I will say. Yeah, we might serve vegan food, and we've got the plant-based games, but there'll be non-plant-based athletes competing. There'll be none, it won't be just like vegan people pushing vegan agenda on stage. It'll be just trying to create a place where people can be inspired and give them the tools and resources to leave there excited to make certain changes if they want to, and better their life and better their planet and better their immediate environment. I think that's where I really want to take it in terms of the events. But I guess we want to get the pledge, the idea, and then hopefully we can pick up some steam. And when we go into 2021, we can. The idea is to kind of really get as many people pledged throughout the year and do a total. And I'd love to save the same amount of forest as Hyde Park, but it's a lot of land.
Yeah,
Hyde Park is huge. When I looked at it, I was like, how many square foot? I can't remember. It was like 5 million or something. It was a lot. And but yeah, so pushing keep the pledge, keep inspiring. Do an event next year. We were looking at hopefully doing something abroad as well. We had a lot of interest from mainland Europe. We had athletes coming over from Europe for this last event who were already signed up, who were keen to go, some amazing athletes. So, we just got to see how things pan out really. But again, it's just to keep providing good information, good resources, keep kind of, inspiring really. And I think once we get our next first event out of the way, then we'll just get the ball rolling, and we keep pushing it that way.
It's great, man. I think it's a cool concept, as well as also a very in the moment concept as well. This is the way the world's going, in my opinion, and I know in yours yours as well. I think that there is more and more people becoming more aware of the fact that there is a issue with the world the way it is, and we need to start focusing on the things that we can do on a day-to-day basis. Yes, we can't necessarily stop cows being reproduced and killed for meat and stuff like that, but we can actually stop buying it in the supermarkets, because then that has a knock-on effect down the chain, you know. And also, I think if anyone hasn't tried it, I think they have to try it before they knock it, you know.
100%.
So many people I speak to are like, oh yeah, but you know, I would be too I'd be too hungry all the time, or it doesn't work for me, or I can never give up bacon. I'm like, yeah, look, don't talk to me until you've tried it, because I think it's just ignorant, you know. I think it's a shame. And I'll be honest, I was that person once. I was like, I could never go vegan, let alone vegetarian. I was just so obsessed with you know, eating meat. And I thought, you know, I used to be a big gymmer before I started doing more triathlon stuff. And I used to think, oh yeah, I need to be big, and I need to, that's what. But actually, it's a load of bollocks. Absolute load of bollocks.
No, of course.
And the best thing is, if you like to eat, which I'm sure most people do, right? The great thing about being plant-based is you can eat as much as you want. And you doesn't touch the sides.
No, obviously you're eating highly nutritious foods, but low calorie. And so the idea that you're going to be hungry is just ridiculous. You just don't know how to feed yourself properly, I guess. But yeah, I think we can have such an important impact on our environment right now, because I believe we are, you know, a very pivotal point. And I think, you know, it's empowering to know that you can save 1,100 gallons of water, 30 foot of forest. Like, let's take that on board and let's do something now. And I like to think, you know, in the future, when they look back, our grandkids look back as go, you know, when you knew the Amazon was being ripped down, when you knew the oceans were being dragged up, you know, what did you do? And this kind of does motivate me. I'm like, you know, when you knew what the single biggest thing that you could do is, what did you do? You can't say, but I like bacon to your grandkids, you know. You can't say that, you know. You go, so that's an inspiring thing for me. It's empowering, but I don't want to make people feel bad to make a decision. I want to empower them to make a decision.
That's it.
You know, I don't want to go, you eating that is going to cause this, and this. I go, by not eating that and eating this, you can do this, and this. You know, and that's how we're going to really spread the message. You know, and they go, yeah, but what about muscle? I'll take, look, come to the plant-based games. Check out these amazing athletes. Trust me, you know. But it's hard. Who's going to trust me?
Exactly.
Trust David Attenborough.
But this is it. I listened to a really, really good TED talk a couple of days ago by Simon Sinek, who it's if anyone wants to find it, type his name in. It's the one that's got 13 million views, probably a few more now. But basically talks about why companies have to focus more on why they're doing something, not what they're doing. And the reason for that, it comes down to psychology and biology, and talks about when someone talks about what they do, right? So let's take you an example. You know, you are creating a space where people can actively get fit and healthy by being plant-based, right? So that's what you do. And how you do it is the next kind of like bit of the circle, is by putting on these events and like giving people knowledge and all that sort of stuff, right? Then you talk about why, and the why is what actually evokes people's choice receptors in their head. It makes them kind of like psychologically make the decision between like an ethical reason and a belief they have, you know. And if you can believe in something, you're much more likely to want to then do the how and the what afterwards, rather than the other way around. The example he gives is Apple, right? Apple were just a computer company, just like everyone else at the time, Microsoft and all the other ones. But the difference between Apple and Microsoft and all the other competitors was that Apple started with why they were doing things. Then they told them how they did it and what they were doing with it, rather than like all the other companies that would say, this is what we do and this is how we do it, and then let the why kind of be a bit of a lost in the background. So I think that getting more people understand why being plant-based is good for the planet will let them make their own decision around whether it's something that's right for them. Now, there's obviously a ton of reasons why someone may not, and that's absolutely fine, because it's their choice. But I think what you're doing with the awareness side of things and the reasons why you're doing it is it's the start of what will be a huge, great big domino effect later on down the line. So
I really hope so.
Thanks for doing it, man. I think it's a super cool thing.
I enjoy doing it. I'm excited to do it. And that video that you mentioned, I've listened to it probably like 10 times, and that's kind of really, I always go back to why, you know, because I think the video's called "People Don't Buy What You Do, They Buy Why You Do It."
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, you just got to keep putting that across, your reason whys, and I think people will believe what you believe.
And it comes down to as well the person as well. Like, I'm a big believer in people by people, you know, and if you're somebody who's been seen as super healthy, super energetic, successful in what you're doing, but also like doing awesome things in the fitness community and in your industry, and it doesn't have to be fitness related. It could be, you know, like running an endurance race, or it could be like starting a business in that space, or it could just be like raising a whatever it is. So long as you're looked at as like a role model and you're doing something that's good for the planet as well as yourself, people will recognize that and see the benefits with their own eyes, and therefore then be able to make the changes in their own world. So yeah, I think keep doing what you're doing, because more and more people will catch on, and at the end of the, you know, you'll look back on this in 5 years time and be like, I was a trailblazer, you know. You know, honestly, like you'll be like, I was a trailblazer in that time. And you know, as with everything, look at smoking as a great example. People used to have, like, doctors used to say smoking's good for you, it reduces stress and all that other crap. Now, what, 50 years on, like, it's banned in like 95% of places around the world. I think personally, drinking's going that way, and also you know, meat consumption is going that way, because there has to be a bigger ethical reason why we do things. You know, plants, the more plants we make, the more oxygen it gives to our planet, and the better we, you know, we cause all sorts of other issues globally and that sort of stuff.
So I think no, exactly. And I guess you know, the point of empowering people to make these decisions and just let them know, you know, how important it is. And just on that oxygen, just on that what you said there, you know, we talk about the forest being the lungs of the ocean, but 50 to 85% of the oxygen that we breathe comes from the oceans, from the phytoplankton in the ocean. So at the rate they're saying 2048, we're going to have fishless oceans. If there's no biodiversity in the oceans, then these phytoplanktons aren't going to be able to produce, you know, the whole ecosystem is ruined. So we really need to look after our climate. We need to look after our oceans. So I guess, you know, that's a really important thing. But like I said earlier, there's a link on the Plant-Based Games Instagram where I've put like all of these resources where you can go, and it's not from the Vegan Society. They've got statistics and they update them all the time, and they've got all of the latest studies and all of the key information that we need to make better decisions. It's like, you know, you want to kind of once you get the knowledge, you can make better decisions. And that's what it's about. Learn more, make a decision. Learn and make a decision. You won't just make a decision off one piece of information. Like you said, you know, at least try it first. Like you said, we both came from the meat eating side. We've been there, we understand what people are going through, but it's kind of like, but we've learned, you know, we've learned and we've developed and we took action upon those new findings.
One of the biggest things I found that helped me when I went plant-based was just being super strict with what I bought at the supermarket. So if you haven't got anything in the house that's meat-based, right, then you can't cook with it. And then it makes you get more creative with how you cook and what you cook with. But also then it makes you realize that you don't necessarily have to have meat in everything you eat. And that for me was one of the biggest things. It was just buying a bunch of veg and be like, right, what can I make with this? And you start getting creative. And sometimes you get a really shit tasting meal or something that tastes really earthy or whatever, but then you just adapt, you know, you put something else in it that sweetens it up or whatever.
Your taste buds will change. They will adapt.
Exactly.
It's not that we just eat like earthy flavored foods. But
go around the garden.
It is an important point that you make. You know, sometimes it will become a bit samey, but like it's still about learning. And if you live with other people, get those involved. The amount of people who just say to me is like, oh, I did meat free today, or did this, and you know, it's so nice to hear. And I think they're proud of doing it. You know, because they know that this is creating a positive impact.
That's it. Actually, out of everything we've spoken about today, there is no negative side to it.
No.
Not at all. There's not one negative to being plant-based, even if it's just once a week or one meal a week, as you said before. That in itself is more positive than not doing it at all. So, you know, anyone that's listening that is already plant-based, tell your mates. Anyone that wants to be plant-based, you know, just try going to the supermarket one day and just not buying anything that's meat-based or that's got any dairy in it, and just see how you feel. See how you feel. Like it's super interesting to sort of see how your body adapts. And look, don't expect results after one day. Like, I mean, to get a bit graphic, but you know, I think it took about 6 weeks for your bowels to get used to the whole thing. And as you know, as you said, there's great tests you can do if you've been doing it for a while and you're a bit worried. Thriver, I can never pronounce it. Thriver, there you go. Thriver.com do amazing tests where you can basically just like send off your blood sample and they bring you back. I did it and I found out that my omega-3s were super low, and so started supplementing them, and I'm back to normal.
And you can get an algae derived omega-3.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you don't, where the cod will get its algae from, its omega-3. You're just cutting out the middleman, obviously saving the impact on the oceans, but it is important because everyone goes, oh, I was just bloated for a week. But you got to think, you know, your gut microbiome and your flora, it was used to certain foods. So when you put in more fibrous foods, then this obviously will create a little bit of a reaction. But over time, like you said, allow your body to adjust to it. Yeah. And new bacteria will grow, like healthy bacteria, which are so important. And then your body can adapt. Obviously, don't slam a tin of lentils straight away or something like that, but just slowly incorporate more fibrous foods, and then your gut will change. And best thing about that, you know, 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. Yeah. You know, and you know, at times like this, we need healthy guts. Yeah, it's so important.
We do. If you relate it back to fitness, it's like you haven't been to the gym for 6 months, and then you go and then you start lifting your weights you thought you used to lift before, and you then wake up next morning crippled because you're just so sore. Same with like going plant-based. You know, you've got to like ease it in and get used to it, otherwise you will be. You know,
allow the body to adapt.
Yeah,
there's a couple of good books. Fiber Fueled, amazing about the gut, and the guy, he wasn't plant-based, but he did the research. One of the best or most decorated gastroenterologists in the world, and he just wrote Fiber Fueled. Also Undo It. It's about lifestyle medicine, how a whole food plant-based diet, intimacy, meditation, or stress practice. That's probably my two favorite books.
Thanks. Awesome. I'll definitely.
But we'll link those in. But they're 100%. Again, the information, they're based on science, and I always go down to trusting people, and I think you can trust. You know, these people, they're not doing it for anything other than this is science, this is health.
That's it.
You know,
there's no sort of marketing. I mean, unless they're obviously selling a product of their own, but the people that put out the information, they're not doing it for any monetary gain. Yeah. They're doing it purely just to help the wider population and the wider, you know, world in its entirety, to make it a better place for us all to live going forward. You know, if David Attenborough's most recent documentary, the one that's on Netflix, his you know, mission statement to the world is anything to go by, that the world is not going to be at all habitable in like 50 years time, let alone 500.
It's going to be very different,
super different, unless we do something. So
I don't think until, you know, the fires are raging here, then people aren't going to make we're going to be so disconnected. I always say, imagine if, you know, every day they ripped up a part of Hyde Park, people would go fucking nuts.
They would.
I put a TRX up on a pole in Battersea Park, and you know, I got told off by the police. I said, you know, I had to put it down there, or the tree, or whatever it was. You know, but the Amazon is being ripped up. You know, you got mangroves in India and Thailand, which are being ripped up so you can put farmed fish in there. And these mangroves are key to defense of the small towns, and they release carbon dioxide into the air. And it's like, if that was happening in the Thames, if that was happening in Hyde Park, then people would have a problem. But because it's not, carry on. So I think we need to look at ourselves a little bit and go, come on, let's take a bit of personal responsibility here.
That's it. Get pledging. Like, you know, pledge. I mean, I'd like to be able to. I wish this pledge thing was around when I first started going plant-based, so I could seriously add to the numbers. But from now on, I will pledge that I will be plant-based for the rest of my life. You know? Can you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
You can calculate. Say you've been, you know, a year and a half. You type in year and a half, and it says this is how much you saved.
Epic. Right. There we go.
And it's powerful. Yeah. You go, fuck, that's awesome.
That's good.
And a lot of time you don't take into consideration the marine life, because the numbers are just crazy in the marine life. But it's super, super empowering.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to add it to my my Christmas letter to my fans. This is how many fish I've saved. Yeah. This is how much water I've saved. Yeah, I'm going to do it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Yeah. Connor, man, this has been amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for having coming on the show and talking about this incredible subject. I mean, I'm a big believer in it, and I hope that, you know, more people get involved with it over time. But, you know, ever since I've met you, I've always been intrigued by what you've done with the plant-based games and active vegans. And so, look, if anybody's listening and wants to find out even more about what we've spoken about today, where can they go to find you?
So simplest way is to go to, probably we're more active on our Instagram, so at the plant-based games. And then at Active Vegans, or for myself is at @ConnorMcDonald_UK. The website is just getting a bit of a refurb, but that's www.activevegans.co.uk.
Cool.
And we're building all the time, so just stay tuned. Check out our testing trains and our mission, and the pledge will be ready to sign up on the Friday before the 2nd, so I think it's 31st-ish.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll link everything in the show notes below,
Yeah,
so
that'd be
people
awesome.
can find you and get in touch and that sort of stuff. Mate, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'd love to. I'm sure people will want you to come back again in the future, so we can see where you're going with everything and that sort of stuff. But man, it's been a pleasure.
Awesome, brother.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
That's good.
That was good.